From WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, this is ParksCenter. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of ParksCenter. Joining me on tonight's show, we have Allison.
Tivaco!
Jill.
Hello.
Nathan.
Greetings from the Sunshine State.
And Rob.
Howdy, folks.
All right, folks, let's kick this show off with a little bit of sad news, unfortunately. For those of you who have known about him, Dave Smith, a Disney legend and the founder of the Walt Disney Archives, passed away this week. He was 78, put in a lot of good work for archiving a lot of what's happened with the Walt Disney Company. I think Nathan and Jill, you two know a bit more about Dave's work than I do. Why don't you go ahead and start?
Sure. I mean, Dave was definitely a legend in the company, and I've had the fortune. Sadly, I didn't have the fortune to talk to him for my podcast, Dreamfinders. Shameless plug, but I did get to talk to Ron Schneider, who played the Dreamfinder. But he got the opportunity to go meet with him at the very beginning of the whole. I guess Disney wants to archive a bunch of stuff, and I'm figuring it out. And he got to go look at cells, and he got to use it was so disorganized when Ron was there to see Dave at the very start that there was just stuff all around Walt's office, just stuff, piles. And it was Dave who was the one that, if you've been at an office, as you can imagine. And Dave was the one who said, I can do this, I can put it all together, I can figure it out. And he really, as you know, and we'll talk more about sort of the complexities, but he did something no one else has ever had to do, which was at the time lay out a archival for a corporation that was more than just it's not Ford, it's not something that is sort of we make this thing and here's some ads that we have and some back. It's a media company, and there have of course been people like Warner Brothers, things like that. But Disney, it was a whole new ball game, and so he was always at the forefront of sort of what archival needed to be for those things, even when there were some missteps and things of that nature, which I think Jill has a little bit of thoughts about as well.
So, yes, so I'm not, first of all, agreed on all counts, Nathan. Dave Smith was a Disney legend, and he did so much to preserve things for the company. He got the archive started in 1970, and that was at a time when movie studios especially were not holding on to any of this kind of stuff. So it was unique that Disney had the motivation to do this and wanted to start putting some of this stuff away. I think there's a lot of stuff, especially about Walt, that we wouldn't have today if it wasn't for Dave Smith. And I think there's a huge debt that Disney fans owe him. Unfortunately, when something like this happens, it puts a greater spotlight on the archives than I think we're used to having in our daily lives. And it makes you realize, kind of shining the spotlight makes you see some of the things that are missing. And it just kind of brings to mind that the archives as a whole don't always do justice to the parks themselves. I think there's a ton of stuff from movies. We've got a lot of stuff from Walt, but it's frustrating when you look back at the archives and you think, oh, we still don't know who the original narrator of Spaceship Earth was. So it just highlights some of the missing pieces, and I think that impacts us on the park fandom side significantly, because I think movies and the history of the Walt Disney Company itself are much better represented in the Disney archives than the parks are.
Yeah, and I think that's true. My personal belief here is that it's a bit of it's hindsight is 2020, and when you're frontiering these kind of things, it's hard to know. Theme parks weren't a thing, and then they suddenly were, he did have from 55 to 70, and there was some understanding of that for sure. But I think we both agree, a total legend when it comes to Disney fandom.
Absolutely, you will be missed dearly. All right, moving on to something a little bit happier here. We've got two new things coming to the Disney parks. Let's see, can I get over to the stories? There we go. So we've got Coco coming to the Mexico Pavilion on March 6th. which this is very similar, if not a copy of a show that was in California Adventure briefly back when the first film came out. And we've also now got Kevin from Up meeting and greeting in Animal Kingdom, and I absolutely adore this. This is just so perfect in my opinion. Like look at how it moves. I am really looking forward to this. I don't look forward to meet and greets all that often, but this looks great. But what does everybody else kind of feel about this? Like Allison, I think you like this.
I love this, both of these things, because we're at a time right now where they're cutting so many entertainment options.
Yeah.
And here they're actually hiring people who are performing to do these, like the Coco marionette or whatever. Like you need somebody to operate that, and that person has to be pretty amazing. And the Kevin is so awesome, and that character is someone that I think even if you know nothing about the movie, if you're walking around the park and you see this ridiculous bird interacting with you, you're going to have a good time. So it's one of those things where the interjection of an IP in a place where it wasn't before, it just works really well regardless of what your familiarity is with the character. But when they're removing performers from like Rivers of Light, but they're bringing this in, it's just nice to see some investment.
Yeah, it really is good to see them putting some money into some nice things, and not just cutting corners.
Yeah, this is such a process too. You sort of feel like for both of these, I saw them at Disneyland and thought they're gonna make it here. Like they were, I mean, Coco had his own show there, and Kevin was a part of a parade. I'm pretty sure was it Pixar Fest or I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of that Pixar themed show, but or time that they had. But both of those you looked at and you're like, man, if they don't make him here, they're crazy. Like they make total sense. And I don't know if we're getting the exact ones and they're not doing them over there anymore, or if it's just a copy. But there is this slight trend of WDI seemingly trying things out at Disneyland because I don't know, maybe it's in California and it's closer and they can adjust, or I don't know their reasoning for it. But this is two instances where they seem to have kind of tested the waters, maybe did some adjustments, and we are getting in Florida sort of 2.0, or the bugs have been figured out, which I can't say I'm upset about.
You know what? I love the fact that Coco is going to be have a bigger presence. I mean, we've all heard rumors of there's going to be a Coco overlay at the Mexico Pavilion, and they've got the mirror in the lobby there when you walk into the pavilion. But I love the idea of having more of Coco because it is something that is seemingly very authentic to the culture. So the idea of an IP that is also authentic, really making a bigger deal of that, I think is awesome. And that puppet I think looks fantastic, or that marionette. And the Kevin thing, I mean, I was excited about seeing that video. I showed it to my family. They were in love with it. I think that Nathan's right. I mean, you can't you can't not be excited about that one. I mean, it really looks cool, even if you don't know what the Up IP very well. I think it's really cool. Also, I think it's cool that we're talking about Coco and this weird bird. And if you guys ever watch Foster's Home for Imaginary Children, there was a bird.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I didn't think about
basically
that.
Kevin, and it was called Coco.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's wild.
I remember that. Gosh. All right.
You're welcome.
Moving to Hollywood Studios here for a moment. We've got some things missing from Star Tours. Like C-3PO has been temporarily removed from the queue at Star Tours, and apparently he took the speeder bike, because that's now gone as well.
That son of a.
Yeah. Oh man.
So I'm the C-3PO I'm fine with, because it means everything we've heard is it's coming back. It's just going to be better, shinier, newer, cleaner, ready to go. So the C-3PO thing, I mean, if he's got to go away for a little while to get his business done and come back, that's great, because I mean, I feel like he's been such an important part of that queue. You don't see him going away forever, but there's got to be a reason. I'm not sure if we know the reason, but there's got to be a reason he's going away. And to me, that means that maybe they are going to keep Star Tours around even longer. I think we've all heard, again, rumors that when they open up, Galaxy's Edge, that you won't really have a need for the Star Wars IP ride outside of Galaxy's Edge, and would that be something else, or will it stay that? I think this shows that at least there's going to be some kind of investment in keeping that around. That's great. The speeder bike, on the other hand, makes me super sad. So I hope they're putting it in a box and sending it to Lucasfilm the same way they sent the Choo Choo Train back to Pixar. I hope it exists somewhere else, because that was one of those things where there was always a line of people to get their picture taken on it. I think I've got probably more pictures on it than I can remember where they are. It was just a really cool thing. It was over, set aside. It didn't usually have, it was one of those things you just kind of took your own picture of it, and it was really cool to sit on it and for a minute kind of be in the IP. I feel like it could still be there. I could still be outside of it, almost like a trail to Galaxy's Edge, and stay there. So maybe it's going to find a better home there. But if it's going away forever, it just makes me super sad.
And I think it should make people super sad, because this is, there are so many things that they don't care about whether something matches the theming perfectly, and they just leave it, that don't enhance the experience of guests at all, like the scaling in Toy Story Land, for example. But here is something where, it doesn't perfectly match the theming, but people love it, and it's neat. And maybe you could, if you care very much to match it, just, like you said, put it right on the trail to Galaxy's Edge, so people can, as they're moving into the land, experience it. But it's just the removal of stuff
like
is
a
sad.
breadcrumb on the way to the magic of Star Wars Land.
Right.
Like just a little
They need
taste
you
of
at
it.
WDI.
Let's do it. Let's go. I'm excited. I mean, I think you couldn't have enough little things, along the way to slow people down, so that they're not, backlogged into the land. I mean, obviously, I've heard Tom say that Grand Avenue is sort of going to be the queue for Star Wars Land, and it's going to need it. And they'll open up Rizzo's again, I hope, and that'll be great. But I think that having those little queues to Star Wars Land when people are excited for Star Wars Land, it just makes perfect sense to have it there. So hopefully they're going to place it somewhere else and it's not going away forever. But if it is, then, and they're not going to send it to Lucasfilm, I can give somebody my address. They can send it to me, and I'll put it in my backyard.
I think this is a great example of something that would work really well at Disney Springs, if not in the parks.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's 2 Star Wars outposts, and one of them is a little farther back, and it could easily fit there as well. I think this is something that will definitely show up. If it doesn't show up there, it's going to show up at Star Wars Nights at Hollywood Studios. They make those vignettes anyways, and it's already done, so just got to put it together.
Yeah. All right, jumping over to Epcot here for our next topic. The full menu has been announced for Flower and Garden Festival. And we're just going to go real quick and give you folks some of the highlights from the menu. Nathan, I think you did some digging in here and found some good things.
I did a little digging. Yeah, this is my wife's favorite festival, and so it's mine as well. No, but it is kind of because it's just fun to be there with her, and it's gorgeous. It's always really pretty. There are some new booths. There's one called Arbor at the Gardener's Terrace, and they have all sorts of really cool things. One of them is a mixed berry buttermilk cake served with apple cider sorbet, and that's gluten-free and vegan, and that sounds amazing. And then there's a whole new booth for it's called Citrus Blossom Booth, and Citrus Blossom Booth, say that 5 times fast, it looks like it's all citrus stuff, and that includes a orange cream slushie, and this is the big part, in a souvenir orange bird sipper cup.
Ooh.
So Orange Bird merch coming around. That's always good. And then I'm always for the Smokehouse, which is another one they have there. And they have a warm chocolate cake with bourbon, salted caramel sauce, and spiced pecans. And that is... Oh, I could eat that right now. That sounds so good. I'm hungry.
Gosh, yeah, you've made me
Well,
hungry.
there you go. Those are the 3 that I was looking at.
Does anybody else have any particularly good things they found on there?
I have something that probably isn't super exciting to most guests, but it's very exciting to me because I love to see things that, like I love cashew cheese. Most people may not have ever had it or maybe like uncomfortable with it, but I love to see when Disney is going to have like somebody doesn't have to make a big investment to try something like that they have never had before, and they have it in the Flavorful Kitchen hosted by Advent Health, a roasted beet with cashew cheese and micro herbs, and it's gluten free and vegan. It sounds not only healthy but also like has a richness. That's what I really enjoy about cashew cheese, because it really does taste like cheese but is somehow more satisfying. You don't have to feel like you need to continue eating cheese like I do. Every time I have like a little bit of cheese, I just want more and more and never satiate it.
Something I've never heard of before.
Like a little more filling, and I just like to
cheese.
see Disney giving people the opportunity to
Running
try
short on
things.
time here, Jill. I think you have one as well.
I was going to say I am also really excited about the Citrus Blossom booth. I think that has it's exciting that they're bringing a couple new booths to the festival, and I think
sure.
that one has everything on the menu there looks really interesting, worth a try. I'm excited to head to Flower and Garden for the first time in quite a few years this year, so I'm just looking forward to kind of seeing how much it's grown since the last time I was there a few years back. And yeah, definitely that orange bird sipper. I'm very curious to see how the orange bird is invading Epcot.
I hope you guys don't take them all before I get there.
Fair.
We'll save you one.
I'll bring you
I'll
on
save
back.
you one,
There we
Rob.
go. Yeah. All right. Moving across coast here, or to the other side of the country, I guess I should say. World of Color finally coming back this week. Oh my
Ben,
gosh.
do you have thoughts?
I have strong opinions about this. Oh my gosh! Like for folks who are a fan of the show, you know I used to have a World of Color blanket behind me. I've still got it right over here. I am a fan of the show. Hearing that this was going away made me unhappy. Seeing it be gone for so terribly long really frustrated me. I mean, I was there opening day, and I no exaggeration, was moved to tears by this show. I loved it. It was the greatest, and there's no fireworks. It's so nice and peaceful and calm and happy. Like, yeah, there's exciting parts, but it just feels so good. I'm glad they're bringing this back, and I thought that for a while there that they were just not going to manage to bring it back, and that scared me a lot.
You know, I've seen it down, I think, almost as much as I've seen it up. And I don't get out to California probably as much as Allison, but I love the show. I think it's great. I've seen the regular version, the holiday version, the Neil Patrick Harris 60th anniversary version. Like, all of those shows were great and just a little bit different. I remember when I heard that we were getting the Rivers of Light, that I was thinking, oh, it's going to be just like that. And, because you can do the water screens and the fountains without having any trouble there. The thing I never thought about was, because that used to be a parking lot, you can drain the lake to fix the platform and put it back up. I don't think you can do that with the lake at Animal Kingdom. But it is a really good show. I think that Rivers of Light, I'm not as big a fan of that one. I think it sort of tries to do sort of the same thing with the water screens, but I really am with you. I love this show. This is probably one of my favorite nighttime shows, because you're right up close to it. You get misted when you're standing right there. It's an awesome display. You're so close to it. It's bigger than life, and I'm with you. I'm glad it's coming back.
Yeah.
You may all notice that Mr. Sivako himself, Pete, a regular panelist on the show, is not here, and he planned to take his girlfriend to California for the first time this week, and they planned it hoping to see World of Color, and then they canceled it, and I was so excited that it was coming back this week for them, but it's coming back 5 hours after they leave.
Oh!
Oh no, poor Pete.
Oh no! Gosh, you just moved the flight at that point. Oh, I'm so sorry for that.
Maybe we should all chip in and get them and get them to take care of
An
their
extra
flight cancellation fee.
All right, moving back over to studios for our next story here, or our next two stories, I guess I should say. We've got some refurbs coming on Sunset Boulevard. First off, Beauty and the Beast is closing for refurb on February 24th. It's going to be back up on March 9th, so it is coming back. We have a date for it to be coming back, and the odds of it ending up in a World of Color nightmare is relatively low. And also, the Tower of Terror is going to be getting a refurb that kind of shuts half the tower down while they work on it, and then shifting back to the other one, so it will be working the entire time. But load times will be a bit worse than normal, and this is happening in the spring and summer of this year, which to me seems like it's a really poor time to be doing that. But at least
I
they're
don't-
not shutting it down
yeah.
entirely.
I don't know when else you do it though. They have got to get this thing done. Galaxy's Edge is around the corner, and when that thing opens, everything has got to be operational and everything's got to be working because they got to drag crowds. If anything shuts down, especially at Hollywood Studios when you have like still not that many rides in comparison to the other parks, or that much to do. In my opinion, like you can't. It is critical that everything works, and so I understand why they're doing both of these. I don't know why Beauty and the Beast is still around. It looks like some show that like would be at a mall in the 90s. I get why it was cool. I have no problem. I have no sentimental love for it.
Right in the fields, man. Ugh.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I think the other thing too is we've all seen the show. I think this came out around the time or before maybe even the Broadway show. Like we've seen so many variations, including another movie at this point. Sorry, which was that, Rob?
The show I think came out before the Broadway one. That it was there in the studio.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
right. Well, my main point here being like we've seen so many variations. I thought when the movie came out they were going to do a new version. I thought it'd be we're going to really update it and we're going to make it look like the film version. And no, but they're working on the thing, for whatever is going down at Epcot. So this won't last forever because once that Epcot version sing-along shows up, there's no really another need. So this is temporary, but they need everything operational.
Yeah.
I think the show itself actually holds up really well since the 90s, but you're right that the sets and the costumes need a little bit of a refresh.
That's my main
I'm not sure
issue.
they've had anything
Yeah.
Since it opened. But there's something about Tower of Terror having longer lines and this is going to sound snarky, but it's not. It's like vintage MGM Studios to me, and it takes me back to my childhood because I was waiting on those lines 2 hours at a time and then going right back around. And that queue is great, so hopefully people will get to actually appreciate the outdoor area.
Yeah.
All
right, and our final topic for the night. It's not too exciting, but it's a story. We've got new cups. So first off, we have new red Solo cups.
Are you gonna sing? Are you gonna
I'm
sing?
not singing. The most I'm doing is writing it down there. I'm not.
Okay.
No. There's the side by side, which is honestly the best shot here. The new cup I believe is on the right. Yes, the new cup is on the right in this picture. It's a little bit taller. It's a little bit more sturdy when you're having it on a tray with no lid, so it's a bit less likely to just fall over and make a mess. The other cups, we've got new ice cream cups that replacing the old generic ones, and I really like this design. I think that's really cool. Granted, you're eating ice cream out of Mickey's shorts, but I mean, it's a really neat little design choice.
Yeah, you know what? Oh my gosh! I look at the ones with the choice of the Minnie and the Mickey, and I think, what kind of personal hell will these people be in when the person steps up and says, "Okay, I got 6 kids. I'm going to need 2 Minnies with chocolate and 1 Mickey with vanilla."
Oh
3 Minnies.
gosh!
Because they've got them both there. It seems like there may be something that they may run into a problem with. I think they're pretty cool looking. I'm a sucker for anything that's Disney and unique. So like, when they had the purple Mickey cups, I thought that was cool. If it's, the kitchen sink with Mickey's pants, I want that to be in my collection of junk. But those are cool, I think. But the Solo cup thing, my wife is an educator, and she is, when we talked about the idea of getting rid of the lids and the straws, she's like feeling like the nightmare of seeing every little kid she's ever seen walking with a drink and, going to drop it. And I think kids have a tendency to, grab it by the top when they're carrying it. So the fact that it's a cup and if it's reinforced so that that's not going to be a problem should be better. But I still, if they're going to go, without lids eventually here, which it doesn't, the last time I was there, they didn't show any signs of doing that yet. If they're going to go without lids and straws, this is definitely a good move to at least make it so that they're they're going to be more solid, because I feel like they're going to be replacing a lot of cups and a lot of drinks for little kids.
Yeah, it's I feel like this was inevitable when they took the lids away, because people were having issues all over the place for those outlets that were actually taking away the lids. But then it kind of comes back to the question of, well, now is the environmental impact really any different? Because you're obviously needing to put more materials into these solo cups so that they're sturdier and thicker. So at that point, are you really saving any kind of environmental impact by taking away the lids? So it just becomes this sort of conundrum of like, it's like the new bags at all the parks. You have to use them like 50 times before they actually save the environmental impact. So
way to see the solo cup half empty, Jill.
Oh,
I have to be the downer on tonight's show. I might as well stick with
womp womp.
Hey,
All
I will
right.
say this though, since we have
go for it. Ooh.
I was just going to comment on what Jill said, which is, at least Disney, they saw a problem and they did something kind of drastic, which is change an entire company that they use for a major thing in the parks. That's something, and I think a lot of times we get in the weeds with sort of oh, there goes Disney again, and they're not going to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to solve the problem, so I give them some credit for that.
Yeah.
It's not
and also we need to give them credit because the solar facility, the brand new solar facility,
we are going to talk about that in the post show, folks. I guarantee it. Speaking of, coming up right after this, if you are one of our Wix members, is our live post show where we're going to talk about solar panels and anything else that you folks want to have us talk about in chat. If you are not a Wix member, we highly recommend you head over to patreon.com/WDWNT. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a Wix member over there, which is gets you access to our post shows, gets you access to what else do we do? I know we've got the entire podcast backlog on there. We've got a slew of other benefits. We've got more benefits coming as we have more shows come out. I highly recommend you check it out. Patreon.com/WDWNT. Also, while you're checking that out, go ahead and check out some of these other shows that we put out.
Dreamfinders is WDW News Today's podcast all about the creative culture surrounding Disney parks. Curious what it's like to read poetry about the Haunted Mansion? Well, we've talked to someone who has. How about what it takes to actually build a Disney castle? We've chatted with a guy who did just that. Authors, Imagineers, dancers, actors, photographers, filmmakers, and a whole lot more have all stopped by to chat about how Disney has inspired their artistic work. Dreamfinders. Episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher.
Ride Rehab is the podcast of ridiculously reskinning, refurbishing, and even removing Disney attractions, shows, areas, and parks. Can we cram Star Wars or Marvel into anything else? Just listen and find out. Visit riderehab.com to start listening now. That's riderehab.com.
WDWNT Nerd Alert is the podcast that encompasses all things Marvel and Star Wars in a fun and entertaining format. On each episode, we take a look at the latest news, provide reviews for the latest feature films, inform you about what is going on in the comic book world, and discuss and debate original topics pertaining to the worlds of Marvel, Star Wars, and beyond. Find us on various podcast applications by searching for WDWNT Nerd Alert.
The WDW News Today podcast is the one that started them all. Join us for comprehensive history segments, heated debates, epic countdowns, and more from the Disney theme parks around the globe. Just search for WDW News Today in whatever podcast service you choose.
Last but certainly not least is WDWNT's premiere show, WDW News Tonight. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. for a live, weekly audio and video show that combines the latest headlines, comedy, trending vacation topics, call-in games, and in-depth discussions to bring Disney fans a one-of-a-kind 2-hour program covering the Disney parks. If you can't catch the show live, you can always watch it later on YouTube or listen to it through your desired podcast service.
And of course, you can always find ParksCenter live at 9 p.m. every Wednesday night, streaming on the WDWN Tunes and also at youtube.com/WDWNT. You can subscribe there and hit the bell to get notifications every time we go live. We highly recommend you do that and check us out on those sources. We also have the podcast. That's what I'm forgetting. We have the podcast version of the show. If you would like something audio-based you can listen to in the car while you're doing dishes, anything like that, you can find us wherever fine podcasts are sold. Just search for ParksCenter and you'll find us pretty quick. All right, with all the plugs out of the way, we're going to head into the post-show for our Wix members. And for everybody else, we will see you next week.